I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't talk about it, but
I've decided that today is the day for Shan to go.
Pizza under the stars.
Yes, that's right. It is Wednesday, November 24th, 2021, and we just finished watching the 10th episode of Survivor 41, Baby with a Machine Gun, as we see Chantel, also known as Shan, get voted out here in an epic blindside, Jeff. I'm Dave Mader coming at you with my brother Jeff Mader here on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or you might be listening to us on the audio version. We'll be joined by Jaemeel Robinson momentarily. It's always quite the flurry, when we go from the episode to pull some quick sound bites for the episode so we can reference things. So sometimes I forget to send Jaemeel the link in a timely manner. But I digress. Jeff, what did you think of tonight? Shan gets voted out. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you indifferent?
Super happy. Didn't see it coming until Rickard said the clip that you played in the lead up there, Dave. I just didn't see how Shan didn't make it to the end of this game. Like I thought for sure she had all these people wrapped around her finger. Turns out Rickard is a better player than even I was given for him credit for last episode. He's like one of my top favorite players now, just for this move alone. Like, really, I'm really impressed by him.
Yeah, he's. I have to agree. He hasn't been my favorite player. Since the beginning. I've never. But you got to respect the game he's playing, and the moves. But he's also a massive target, and his chances of winning, I think, are somewhat slim unless he wins out or a couple things go his way in terms of like the social dynamics of the game. But we should break this all down. Yeah, this was kind of Shan's swan song, I think, she's the one that Erica references in the very beginning of the episode.
And it's almost like giving like a baby a machine gun.
Because Shan is one of the people who carries an idol, one of these idols that was activated from the 3 tribe thing. And it's here's my thesis for tonight, Jeff. I think that these idols were curses. Nasir voted out last week. He was the Luvu holder. Shan was the Yua holder, and so that only leaves Xander, who they keep talking about, but Xander is just always talking about the fact that he has this idol, and somehow he survives here tonight. They don't vote him out; they vote Shan out instead.
Can we give credit where credit is due there? Like, Xander is playing very well with this idol. Like, the amount of times he has not played it in jest, the amount of times he's kind of read things correctly, has been pretty impressive to me. Like, and Rickard's Red is joining us right now. Rickard's Red. What?
Yes.
What?
Rickard's.
It's Rickard. Is that okay? Because we got called out on our YouTube comments, everybody, because they were saying we pronounced his name Rickard, which is apparently not correct. And I was like, but they don't really ever say his name very often. I guess Shan does.
Until this episode.
Until this episode, they were saying it all the time. I was like, it's Rickard, rock. It's almost like rock hard. I don't know. It's I don't know, but it's way more guttural than I've been pronouncing it. Like I pronounce it as Rickard.
I just find it kind of like weird. I'm calling Sham the entire time, and
right.
No one has a problem with that, right? But draw the line. Draw the line here at Rickard.
I don't like that.
Yeah, he wants you to say his name right.
Well, maybe I'm not going to. How about that? What are you going to
do?
How
about that? Yeah, hey, don't challenge Jaemeel. He'll do it just to
don't challenge the gate.
No.
I will gladly call it, like, screw it up, but use it correctly. I like going back and forth. I'm not stuck to one thing.
That's good. It's good to be flexible.
Right.
Jaemeel, how do you feel about Shan's exit here tonight? And also, is Rickard I don't know if I'll ever say his name right now. I'm so self-conscious of it. But is he one of a really great player, worthy of admiration? Or do we have to kind of wait and see? Still, is it don't.
Okay. None of the people in this game is worthy of the title great player, right?
Right.
We're not even near the end game yet, so no one has truly proven they're a great player. Right?
Can we say
competent?
though? Can we say though that Ricard is a good player?
Sure, but he
we can say that. We can say he seemed compared to his peers, he's a good player.
He's able to look at a situation objectively, right? Which puts him in a class above a majority of the people in this game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's Sash from Nicaragua.
He's Sash. He's Sash. And Xander is who? Fabio. And so that means who's Chase? That'd be Danny. Danny's Chase.
Yeah, Danny's Chase.
Yeah. Tonight was really kind of like Chantel Smith of Washington, D.C., formerly of Toronto. She is originally, right? She is voted out here tonight. She was the baby with the machine gun, Jaemeel. And she were you happy to see her go?
Honestly, yeah. Due to sloppy gameplay, man. Sloppy gameplay. And when you're that sloppy, I'm sorry. We wrap up the table, we send you home, enjoy the goodie bag, you're gone.
It would have been one thing had she been blindsided without it knowing it was coming. She knew it was possible. Once Ricard won that immunity, she should have known it was possible that they're coming for her, but she was so secure in her position in the game that she didn't even consider it. Very much overconfidence. Also, by the way, I'm noticing on the picture there, Dave, in the bottom left-hand corner, what is going on in Jeff's arm?
Those are some buys and tries, man. That's where they bulge.
It's in such a weird spot. It's like bulging right here.
Yeah, I don't know how.
He found a weird muscle during the pandemic. That's what
he works. He has some interesting Bowflex things in his house, I think. And
he was doing digging at home.
He works out,
screaming at himself.
I know he works out when it's Survivor. That's what he does when everyone else is suffering on the island. He just works out. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I see him dragging a rope attached to a big tire or something, by pulling it towards him like Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman.
Right.
He's later on.
Pizza under the stars.
When he's trying to find the reserve energy when he's working out, does he tell himself to dig deep? You gotta dig.
I think he does.
I think he hires someone that sounds like him to yell at him.
Yeah.
He gets
it right there.
He gets a cosplayer to do that exact thing.
Yeah.
That is what research and practice gets you.
He's like Homelander, has a someone who's dresses up as himself.
Yeah, or kind of like Mr. Who's his name? Mr. Incredible in The Incredibles, with his with Syndrome. Is that his name? Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, this isn't about The Incredibles. This is about Survivor 41, and the beginning of this episode was kind of the reeling off of these two tribals where Evie. And I often pronounce her name Evie. I think it's actually Evie. Evie and Nasir voted out in the last episode, so they're kind of going on about that. And there's a lot of talk around camp, sort of a lot of in the black or the night vision scenes tonight to start off the episode. And then it kind of goes into the morning next, and it's a lot about Deshawn and Chantel and them talking about their alliance and whether they want to trust each other or not. Deshaun saying it might be the time to get her out now. But I'm conflicted about working with her and working with the other black players.
And I really do feel like coming into this game, if there were going to be black players here, that I wanted to play with them. But it gets tough because you still want to win for yourself. But there's that duality,
yeah, it's a duality. He was ultimately he does want to cut her tonight, He's part of this blindside against her. So should have seen it coming. But how much do you think he really did want to work with Chantel? Was this more? I don't know. I don't want to say pandering to the audience, but I'm a little after Big Brother. I'm a little bit not as maybe. What's the word I want to use? Or I guess I'm just not as necessarily. I'm not against it, but like this idea of like the black players working together and the cult and doing it for the culture, and as Shan put it, the 2020 was a hard year, and so this was filmed before Big Brother was as well, or just shortly before.
I believe
Because we know that 2020 was a hard year, and so whenever we refer to doing it for the culture, that's what we're referencing, and so.
But
I believed it was filmed in April.
April and May, I think, and ultimately that doesn't hold tonight. They vote her out anyway. So unlike the cookout in Big Brother, which did stick to the final 6, and but this 4 here of Deshawn, Danny, Leanna, and Chantel do not survive the day, and I'm not really surprised. They're not as strong of strategically as those cookout players were in Big Brother. I think that especially Leanna and Shan tonight, I think they were sloppy. I think that Danny and Deshawn are not as savvy as they think they are, but they seem to be. But they're always on the right side of every vote. Those two. So since
Ricard's been on the right side of every vote he's been in.
Yeah, he's been in more than anybody because he's been in a lot of tribal councils. Jaemeel, thoughts about the whole?
I was waiting. Okay, so I could understand why it might be difficult for folks to kind of understand the for the culture kind of thought process. It's not necessarily easy to understand, I guess, unless you've lived through it or you've understand the conversations revolving around it. So now, keep in mind, not speaking for all Black people. Now, there's always the thought process that you would try to help your own, because there's always been the back and forth of do you help out like those around you and lift up the community. So you're always having that kind of back and forth always coming up. You see it in even something as simple as music, right? Whenever someone gets big, what do? They bring their whole crew with them, right?
Yeah.
You don't really see people kind of like, I'm just going to forget about everyone. I'm rich, so I'm doing well. There's always the thought process of you didn't necessarily make it on your own, right? You've made it there with the help to, whether it be like the people in your neighborhood or anything else. Same thing when people, let's say, immigrate from different countries. A lot of time, in a lot of cultures, they often aren't just looking after themselves here in Canada or US. They're also at the same time supporting the people back home as well through whatever means they may have, right? So there's always the for the culture type of thought process, whatever level it may be. So when you have that type of thought process and you're brought into a game where traditionally it's usually you versus everyone else in Survivor, because there's usually just one or two minority-esque people with you, and now you have the conflict come up where they're confronted, where it's like it's not just you, it's a bunch of people who are kind of lived in that same experience. So the issue comes up again. It's like, is it an individual game, or is it just like what I was mentioning, where it's like, it takes a village and they're confronted with it. Big Brother's a lot easier of a game to kind of stick together with a group and kind of plow through the competition. Whereas Survivor, especially this season, being so quick and so fast, where, thoughts that you may have are already actioned a couple of hours later. Right? Throughout Big Brother, we were seeing people like, it's time. I'm getting rid of Tiffany. I can't stand this woman. We need to get her out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's days before anything happens, and then things change and they go back into the group mentality. Here, you say something like that, you start making that thoughts, known, and then action has already happened. Wheels are moving, people are talking to other people, and it just becomes a wave. So those thoughts, you can't get it back. So the cookout, if they were in Survivor, would never work. Right? These group of people, I'm pretty sure if they were in Survivor in Big Brother, they would have a lot of more time to kind of smoothen out all the issues that come their way. So, am I surprised that this happened? Absolutely not in Survivor,
No.
because as I said before, like from the get-go, the first week that this was brought up, I'm like, this is a different game. It's not gonna work. So said, so done.
Like, all right, I think you brought up a great point there, Jaemeel, and Dave. Maybe you can kind of answer, speak to this as well. Like, look at the players that are still around, right? They're all like the players that are kind of like the quieter players, right? Erica, Danny, Heather, even Xander, Ricard. Like, they're all kind of like the quieter, not boastful. Like, Deshaun's gone next, I think. Like, based on that kind of theory, like I think he'll be gone, and then maybe Ricard, and then we're gonna get like a final five with like a lot of quieter, not big personality TV characters. And now like the edit makes more sense. What do you think, Dave?
What? I don't know. Like, what? So why was Heather not in any of the show leading up to the merge? Like, why was she never?
She's the quietest of quiet, and none of her moves make any sense.
And she's not driving. She's not driving the narrative of the show.
Yeah, and it wasn't until she actually stood up and did something where they can't like cut around it, because it led to that Deshaun Sham kind of confrontation. They had to include it. Otherwise, she might as well just be like a statue.
She's final 7 now.
Well, that's what I'm trying to. That's the point I'm trying to make. This new speed version of Survivor, I think Jameel's bang on that. The more you are like like Shan would win this game, I think, or get to the final 3 in the very least, in almost any other season. But I think because it's like a speed version of Survivor, I think it definitely caters to the players like Erica, like Heather, like Xander, to kind of like Ricard, like to kind of just sit back, wait for things to occur, and then strike.
Dave, look at how Ricard took the information that Sham gave him. He's like,
yeah, that should have been a first clip.
Hold on. I just need to think about it. He's like, oh, you're going to do something? It's like, no.
I pulled that. Hold on.
That's a lot of information to take in.
Yeah, and the fact that he was like, the fact that he told her to her face, I'm surprised you told me that, should have been a big red flag for Shan.
I think it was.
If it was, she would have played her idol.
Well, like, that's a fair point. I think that I think her demise here tonight is all her own doing. I think she's just I don't think she was that big of a threat, because I think you could take her out at any point. But this is as good of a point. Like, as Ricard decided, this was the moment.
I've decided that today is the day for Shan to go.
Gotta have those bats in there.
Like it was a movie trailer.
Yeah, and so there's all of that. Well said there, Jaemeel, before too. I thought that you made a lot of good points there, and summed up a lot of the spirit around the doing it for the culture. And I think in terms of how it's being portrayed on both shows, I think it's been it's definitely a memorable moment. I get it. I think it's like,
well, Dave, would this have occurred? Sorry to interrupt, but like, would this have occurred 10 years ago on Survivor? Like, do we live in a different world today than we did 10 years ago?
I think that's the contestants' point. I think the contestants' point is that the cast wouldn't have had this diversity 10 years ago. So therefore, this wouldn't have been there. And now that the numbers are increased for the minorities, in particular the Black players, I think because they're especially in American culture and history.
Yes and no. I think at the same time, people have forgot that Vesepia won. Honestly, I think at this point, it's so long ago that Vesepia won that people think that there's still a barrier to climb. Like, so Wendell made it, right? But Wendell was like he's a unicorn. Like you get your Tonys, you get your Wendells, right? You get your Kims, right?
There was the Irwin, like he was one too.
Irwin. But
Yeah.
I think if you ask some of these people, Danny doesn't know that. I honestly feel like Danny has no clue. Like
Yeah.
it's like
You're
who
probably
won
right.
before, right?
But like
Plus, at the
that
same
season,
time, you have the whole Black Lives Matter movement.
Mhm.
Things are a lot more at the surface than they were 10 years ago, right? Where
Yeah.
they can just say, "Oh yeah,
That's true.
Vesepia, and thing just won like a hot second ago," right? Based upon her own merit. Terrible season, but still based upon her own
Mhm.
merits, kind of thing, right?
Right.
So, Dave, I understand people's reaction to it because it is kind of like you're playing an individual game. Like it's like contradictory at the same time, but it's just the mentality that people have, right? That they're faced with. And I think
Yeah.
as we go on, people are going to be confronting it with it more and more, and you're going to see a definite resolution, which is individual game in a couple years.
Well, I think you're seeing shades of it. I think that there's there's the sort of like what's happened in the contemporary now, and then in sort of what is the story of this season. I think that all players that they cast are always there. They want to sort of them to think about what's my story, what greater story am I part of in this season? What's this theme of this season? The theme of this season has just been 41, right? It's not been like brains, brawn, beauty, or other things that they would bring in. So it has this very sort of like blank slate to kind of do whatever you want with it. And I think just they're like, well, pandemic, the Black Lives Matter, 2020, all the things that happened, big watershed moments. And also like, do you want to be known as like, okay, we had like an opportunity to work together and we didn't, like we usually there's been like one or two minorities cast on the season. Now it's not like that. So what do we want to be known like? And we just turned on each other, and then white guy won anyway. So it's like,
Oh, Xander wins.
yeah, Xander wins. Here comes Fabio.
Yeah.
But like from their perspective, don't you think it'd be terrible if Xander wins from their perspective? Like they just let this dude get to the end. But spoiler alert, they're letting this dude get to the end because he's still there. He didn't get a single vote. Like, when's the last time he got a vote?
And he has an idol too. He gets to sit on his idol too.
They're always trying to get somebody else out instead of him. They're like later, Xander. He's always later.
Why did Rickard tell him not to play his idol?
I know why, because Xander is one of those sharks.
I'm one of those sharks that you can see my fin.
Yeah, you can see his fin, so they go, we know where that shark is.
You could have told him to play his idol tonight. It would not have affected the outcome.
That was the original plan. That like Shan's like, okay, we're gonna all vote Erica, but we're not gonna tell Xander so that he will be nervous and play his idol. So, but he doesn't. He wasn't nervous. I think she underestimates him. I think a lot of people underestimate that he can kind of read it a little bit better than. But I think his overconfidence at Tribal and him like playing chicken with his idol all the time is eventually going to be as I'm doing. I predict he will be voted out with that idol in his pocket, just like Chantel was tonight, and just like Nasir was last week.
I think we're going to see a season where the idol play is only going to come down once. All these people are going to go home with idols in their pockets. And then when Xander gets voted out, it's going to be like, there's an idol on the island and everyone's scrambling to find it. It's going to be like the theme of that episode.
Yeah, I think so. Like hasn't this been like bad? It's been so far, it's Nasir and Chantel. And if Xander gets voted out with that idol, it's a curse, right? This wasn't a good thing for them. Or did they just play it wrong? All of them.
Well, like once Xander gets voted out, supposedly with the idol, if you find it, you should play at that same tribal and then hope that you find it again until the idol is no longer there. Because like you've seen what, 3 people possibly go home with idols in their pockets. You don't want to be the 4th. And also all these advantages that everyone was like, oh my gosh, there's too many advantages in this game. What have they really done so far this game? Like barely anything.
Well, a couple extra votes, a couple of shots in the dark. Nothing major. You're right. There's been a lot in play, or like in certain times, like Chantel seemingly had like 6,000 advantages in her pockets, but that she had stolen from JD and like clawed out of her alliances and different things. But yeah, like it's actually been kind of quick. Not a lot of they've been able to flush out advantages more so than have them actually been played, or sort of like I remember I can't remember what season it was, but I remember one like tribal council where like all these different advantages kept getting played until eventually like Suri was voted out.
Yeah,
right?
or was it Idlegeddon that they call it?
Idlegeddon, yeah. Like it's just which is kind of interesting in itself. It's kind of like any game, like that's kind of what can happen sometimes. It can get complex or sometimes it's more simple. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. It's just this particular example had this. The whole thing. Okay, so just to move on, just talk about the episode tonight. The challenge was the star puzzle. This was to go to Sanctuary, and pizza under the stars.
Pizza under the stars.
Ultimately, yeah, they had to like pull this rope. They had to start in the water, pull the rope through, get to the none of it really matters. It's just, I guess the whole point of it is to make you tired before you do a puzzle, and maybe get a few extra seconds of advantage. Ricard, he did pretty well getting through the thing. He got there a bit earlier, but I think he would have won anyway, even if he hadn't done that. He was pretty good at that puzzle. And I don't even know who was next closest to him in that. Deshaun. Yeah.
Who was, I think the third or fourth person to the puzzle. So it didn't matter.
Yeah, so he does very well on the puzzle, only kind of amplifying his threat level, I think, to the others, in particular Danny, because then Danny was also observing who he took on the reward with him, which was Chantel, Heather, and Xander. Xander for having sacrificed himself for the rice. This was his reward for that. Shan, because she had never been on any rewards, or Heather for that matter, actually.
Were his picks smart, do you think? His reward picks?
Yes and no. I think that ultimately Chantel, I think he had to pick her. I don't think he could have lived it down after that papaya and everything else.
I was so bothered when he took a piece of the papaya.
I think he was smart to bring her, not because of that, but because it was really smart to keep her close. And keep your friends close, and your
frenemies closer.
Your frenemies even closer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's kind of the mastermind of or at least the initiator of getting her out, because once they realize he turns on her later on, they're like, okay, great, well, we'll split votes and we'll whatever in order to make this work. Yeah, and so I think that they were, but Danny was very much he noticed it right away, and he was like, okay, I didn't get to go on this, and Danny, you say he doesn't know Survivor, but listen,
in Survivor, you have to knock the people out who you think can beat you in this game, and
yeah.
No, that's not what you have to do.
You got to knock the people out who can beat you. That's what you have to.
What you have to do, Danny, is two things: win a competition every now and then. You're an NFL player, my God. And number two, how much actually understanding how to read people and control some sort of personalities in the game, and actually has some agency. This is probably his best episode, and even then I was like, he's gonna screw it up. It was all I was thinking the whole episode.
Yeah.
Sean did not play better as well either. Ricard obviously knew. He obviously knew what Sham told about the plan with Sham. And Ricard details that information, and rather than build bridges, he's like, "No, I never said anything like that." It's like, dude, he knows you're lying. Why do that? And what did Ricard say? I don't like that. I don't trust him.
Yeah. He's like, I'll vote you out next week. That's what he said.
Yeah,
I'll vote you out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Instead, how about that? Yeah. I can wait. Yeah, that's kind of he would be if you were going to do a Heroes versus Villains 2, I would put Ricard in the villains tribe.
Really? I think he's a hero. He's coming up as a hero.
Oh, I think he's villainous.
Who's the hero in that exchange?
No hero. They're all villains.
No, I agree. I understand what Jameel's saying, but he would fit better on the villain tribe. If they do a Heroes Villains 2, yeah, Shan and Ricard would be great to throw on there. Together again,
Right. So the other side was, Danny, Deshawn, and Leanna. They were like, let's target Ricard. Like he's doing too well. He's winning challenges, winning rewards, immunities. He'll go on to win the immunity later on in this episode. And Shan is like, I'm willing to take him out with you guys, and even if we have to leave. Leanna says, yeah, I'll leave Shan out of the plans. We'll blindside her because they're like, she'll have nowhere to go if we get out Ricard. Then she can, she'll have to come back to us, right? And like there's the whole thing that happens in between, which is Ricard and Shan at the Pizza Under the Stars and the shelter and the sanctuary and everything else, where she didn't want to talk about having to turn on each other yet. Which
I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But
I think she played this very, very wrong. I think she should have said to Ricard, like, what I think he wanted to hear was, I'm going final 2 with you. Because in the back of Ricard's mind, he knows about what Jaemeel just kind of laid out with the culture, that if he gets to the final 5 with the 4 of them, he's not done. He's not making it. He's going to get voted out. Even if Shan wants to keep him, it's going to be a 3-2 vote against him. And so he knows this. And so he's like, I can't go that path. I know I can't go that path. So why don't I just take Shan out now? Liana will have to come to me, most likely. Right.
Well, who's she gonna have left? Xander?
She could go with Dan. She could go with Danny and Deshawn.
Yeah, well, she'll have to, because she'll just be like a number for them at that point, right? But she'll have no number 1.
But like the preview for the next episode, she's basically cussing them out, after travel. So we'll see how that goes.
Great move, Leanna. We'll see.
She's a terrible player, by the way.
Well, I think tonight, this was the point of the episode where, like, when Leanna and Shan were reunited later on, and basically Leanna spilled the beans completely. She's like, we had that moment up on the summit, and our moms and our being black and all these other things, and we had a moment, and that means more to me than anything.
Just before, going back to the Ricard Sham conversation in Sanctuary, did you like that new camera angle where it's like,
no,
so like I hated it. I hated
it
like,
too.
So
there was something weird going on with the shot tonight. Yeah,
it must have been cold or something. But like the weird part was, it was like Xander and Heather weren't even there. It was
you look back at it, you see them in the background, like in the deep background.
Yeah, it's almost like they're out of focus.
Yeah, it was the strange. It was like they like the show purposely shot it and edited it to make it seem like it was just Shannon Ricard on this reward challenge. And it was like, well, like if I was Xander or Heather, I was right beside them hearing this conversation. I don't know. You would think the camera would want to pick up their facial reactions too.
It seemed like they were like too far away to hear.
They were right beside them.
Well, they were busy talking about whatever Xander and Heather would talk about. What would they talk about?
Heather was giving more strategic pointers to Xander, obviously.
Pizza Under the Stars.
Yeah.
What was it? They also said something about splitting a veggie pizza. Is Xander some kind of vegetarian? No, he likes stew. He can't be a vegetarian. What was going on with that? I don't know. That was unexplained.
Look, Dave, if you haven't eaten that much, right, like in a long time, and they put all the different types of pizza in front of you, you're mowing down the pepperoni, you're mowing down the super deluxe, and then the vegetarian pizza is coming. Are you gonna skip it? No, you're gonna eat that too.
No, it's if anything, it's the appetizer.
It's bread.
Right? So
at the end of the day, it's bread.
Yeah, it's pizza.
It's cheese sauce and bread still, man. I'm eating it.
Under the Stars.
Pizza under the stars.
The way he says stars.
Why?
Yeah,
why no movie?
Yeah, there was no cross promotion. They didn't know.
No cross promotion. There was no Dear Evan Hansen coming out.
Canto. They couldn't do Sing 2. Like nothing.
Yeah, the whole thing here, but like everything that happens afterwards, where Leanna tells Shan, okay, they're not gonna blindside to vote you out. They're gonna vote to take out Ricard. And then like she's like, no, we can't allow this. We have to take out. They say we got to take out Deshawn instead. And then she goes to Ricard, and he's like, oh, that's a lot to take in. It's like, why are you telling me all this? And like, we were never going to go to the final two together. You know that. And she's like, yeah, I know, but not yet. We're not going to vote you out yet. Come on.
Dumb.
Dumb, yes.
She showed tonight why she's not a great player. She could have been a good player.
I agree.
But she showed so many times tonight why she's not a savvy enough player to get to the end.
She's not disciplined.
Nope. And she's very overconfident. She like, all right, her whole thing tonight, Dave, when Ricard won the immunity, she was like, I'm cool with it being Erica tonight. Like she decides for everybody in the game how it's gonna go. She literally thought she was God and everyone else is her followers. Like that's literally how she was viewing the game, and
as
it was working.
Pastor.
Yeah, as a pastor. She was very much.
That's what I do as a pastor.
Yeah, she expects to get her way. I think is also how to characterize her.
But she wasn't taking Ricard's feelings into account. They were coming after me, and now you're telling me now that I'm safe finally. Oh, let's not worry about them. Let's stick to the original grouping, which is them and you, right?
Right.
And I'm supposed to team up with you all to take out another person that didn't have anything against me and didn't try to get me out.
If Shan was smart, she would have been like, let's take out Deshaun Ricard, right? And then he
would have no place to go.
Yeah, she doesn't play it well. I think that he's kind of like, this is a weird conversation, as he's told her in the past.
I feel like this is a weird conversation.
It is. It's with Shan. And they could hear that part. And we kind of like right after that go into the immunity challenge, and I had to pull this clip of just like when Xander and Erica have to give up their immunity from last week because they were in two different groups.
Erica, gonna take yours back.
Gosh, you're taking Xander and I's friendship necklaces.
Oh, well, glad they have another purpose.
He's glad they have another purpose.
That was witty. I like that. I'm sorry.
It was witty, condescending, and nice all in one. I don't know how he did it.
I couldn't quite understand his tone there. Yeah, like it was what was he happy with Erica?
No, he was kind of like, that's cute, Erica. And I'm not gonna be a total douche to you because I'm a new Jeff with a mullet.
I'm a new Jeff, new era.
I won't say come on in, guys. But everything with Jeff is funny this year because he's so like I said to Amanda when he was doing like his whole spiel when Ricard won the immunity, he's like, it won't be you, 1 to 7 you going home and we'll find out who that. And I was like saying to Amanda, I was like, he is like a robot now. He's like done this now. This is the 41st season and he literally comes in. He doesn't read a script. It's all pre-programmed within Probst. And he just like comes in and just spits out the words and then like goes and works out and beefs up his arm.
You gotta dig deep.
So it's Jeff Bot now, right? We have to worry about.
He's Jeff Bot. He's Probst Bot.
He's Probst Bot. Yeah, Jeff Bot. I like that. He's just like, okay, Erica. And I was like, Erica, that was a weird thing to say, but that's fine. The whole ball in the disc challenge. You guys like this challenge? Where you got to balance a ball in a disc. Everyone used the right hand. Everybody.
I think it's pretty equal. Like honestly, I don't think anyone really has an advantage.
Yeah.
Unless you're Heather and old, you had no chance.
Yeah, but like even Deshaun, the most athletic guy there, was like second out or something. Like
not
Deshaun. Danny. Sorry,
Danny was second out. Leanna went first out. Then Danny. Then Erica went out early in round 2. And Heather went out as well in that round. And then in round 3, Shan, who had been struggling and just barely holding on, she goes out really early in round 3. We get into like the bird. I was gonna pull it, but I didn't have time. It was the birds chirping. They were just because we come down to like Deshaun and Xander and Ricard, like they're it's just kind of, you hear like the birds like chirp, 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 chirp. And like they just kind of like used some of the airtime of that tonight. And he's like, you got to earn it, Probst. He's like, you got to earn the win here, guys. That's how it goes. You got to dig deep. Right. And that's Deshaun
That is
goes,
how you do it. He loves that one too.
That's how you do it.
that's how. Yeah, that is one of the ones he loves.
That's how you do it right there.
Right there.
Right there. And then Xander and Ricard were the final two here. They've only two have won immunities, right, in this individual part of the game.
Yeah,
I guess Erica did too, but
Ricard has to know he's a threat. Like he just has to know. Like the other six are gonna look at him like, okay, you're winning everything.
but he's still right to win this immunity tonight, right?
Yeah, no, he had to win it, I think. But at the same time, he won the reward too. Like, he didn't need to win the reward. Like he's really putting himself out there more maybe than he needs to.
The last surviving member of UA now with the Chantel's been voted out.
One of the worst tribes in the history of tribes. I mean, seriously,
Worse than Yahtzee?
Up there. Like if it's on the Mount Rushmore of terrible tribes in Survivor history for sure.
Yeah. Well, Luvu, dominant Luvu, as confused as goats on AstroTurf. And so they coming out of that, Ricard, right? Ricard, guaranteed final 7 now. And he's, big threat, you're right, but he's only got to get through 6 people to win this. Not even, like 4 people.
Who's gonna vote with him though? Like that's my question. Who's voting with him?
I don't know. Probably Heather. He's used Heather quite a few times now.
He has, and Erica he could probably convince.
It seems like they're willing to work with him, and that's the thing is I think Erica has been written off a lot of times by people like Deshaun and Chantel, but I think like Erica and Heather, he's like, yeah, these 2 are votes. I can use these votes. There's only 8 people left. He's just
Erica made the right call, splitting the votes and then doing the revote.
Okay, yeah, we can get into that because like I wondered if Ricard wanted that to happen. Did he want the split vote thing to happen? Did he? Because there was a chance Liana goes home there. If
I think he was fine with it. I think it's a chance Liana goes home, but if Liana goes, then that only makes him stronger anyway. Like it's fine. It's better than him going or anybody else.
Who did Shannon and Liana vote for?
Shannon, Liana,
Erica, right?
They voted for Erica. They thought it was going on Erica.
Yeah.
So that's what they told them. That was the original plan, and so they ultimately worked with Erica instead.
I kind of enjoyed that. Like I had a bit of Schadenfreude with not only the fact that there was the revote, just that moment when they knew first of all there was three things here. I was so happy there was no whispering. I was so happy that this was a normal tribal council where they just spoke in code and there was no getting up and freaking out and changing the vote and all this kind of nonsense. And tonight restored my faith in the tribal council process. They
were talking a little bit too much though. Like after on the revote where it was only between Liana and Chantel was like, "Don't trust anybody, Liana," and I was like, "Shut up! You don't talk during the vote."
No, it's bitter cries of a loser. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's a death squeals of a.
There is some honor. There has to be some honor here, Like
no. Where it was important was on the first vote. Like once Jeff says time to vote, then you're not allowed to say shit. But once you go into the revote and it's obvious Shannon's going home, Probst is like, I'm sure,
I don't care. Let her talk.
She was getting unanimously voted.
Actually, we'll edit it into the episode and we'll show it just to just to have her squirm a bit. Yeah, and so the tribal council tonight, I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed it more than these other chaos ones that they've been doing more and more. Just like how Ricard in particular, I thought he was like, it's all about your awareness. What do you think your position in this game is? And he's kind of talking about Xander. He's kind of talking about Erica. He's talking about everybody, right? He's like, you think you're in control until you're not anymore. And I think he is kind of he seems to be, if he can get to the end, he seems to be the clear one to win. But it's whether he'll get to the end or not.
He's the best player out there. He's playing the best. But the problem is he just voted out his closest ally. Yep. And the fact is, I think he did it maybe a vote or two too soon. I think now he's alone with 6 other players against him that don't want him to get anywhere near the final 2 or 3.
He did think it through, though. He thought it through.
I've decided that today is the day for Shan to go.
He said,
okay, and I think he did that for 2 reasons. One was the reason I said if he gets to the final 5 with the Culture Alliance, it wasn't going to work for him. He wasn't going to win. The second part was Shan basically told him to his face that I'm going to vote you out later. So I'll stab you before you stab me type thing. Like, that's basically what happened. So I get why he did it. And it was a great opportunity. I don't know if he was going to get that opportunity again. So I really understand why he did it. But now he's really got to rely on his gameplay to convince
or
Erica
or just
and
win
Heather.
immunities.
Are you saying he has to dig deep?
He's got to dig deep.
Okay. Okay. You said it.
Sorry.
And that's how you do it.
You got to dig deep.
Deep.
That's how it is done.
Yeah, that's how it's
Grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese.
Just wanted to get that one in there.
Okay.
Okay, so let's. I just want to update our draft here, as I am now completely done, guys. I lost Nasir and Shan in back-to-back weeks here.
The turnaround. Like, we were looking at, like, you're gonna go extra deep.
I know.
Like,
I had these two players that should have done well in Shan and Nasir. They're both done here just a few days apart, or 1 day apart. This was only a day apart, from yesterday to when this happened. Huh, that's interesting.
Speed Survivor is nuts. I mean, it really. I think. Imagine they have a bigger cast. Like, if they do a heroes villains and there's 20 people, and they're never. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be like 2 votes a night.
At a certain point, there would be fatigue from the players.
That reminds me. How amazing was like Nasir's face on the jury watching this all go down tonight? He's like, "Oh my god, a tie! Oh my god, a revote! Oh my god, this is amazing."
I loved Tiffany when there was the whole moment between Erica and Shan where it was like, "Oh, we trust each other," and like Tiffany's like, "Oh yeah, sure you do,"
sure.
Yeah, she was good. Nasir, it sucks that the jurors can't talk sometimes, just because I think but facial expressions alone with him are well worth it.
Leanna, there's no point for Leanna to get to the end because people aren't voting for her.
No,
she's not likable. That jury does not like her at all.
No,
no, she's not rootable. She's really not. Who has Leanna in her draft?
She's also like not savvy. She's kind of an oblivious player. She thinks too highly of herself in the game. Watch her DRs or whatever.
Jen
It's pretty.
has Leanna.
Her DRs are really hard to watch because she is so unself-aware. She thinks I'm a student. I watch all the Survivor, and I'm just like, girl, like you don't really know what you're doing out there. Like, it's pretty obvious that you're not a good player, and like now you just lost your safety net. Let's see what you do now. Like you're gonna throw a hissy fit.
Holding up.
Yeah, it seems like you're, yeah.
Is Daryl not looking golden though right now to win this?
Well, Danny ain't winning, and so
Xander and Ricard though.
Yeah, it's between me and Daryl, I think, to win this game.
Because come on, Heather's not winning.
How is it that Heather lasted longer than both your players?
Heather was this one that was gifted to you or cursed upon you, and she might win you this game somehow. Jeez. But if she'd have to be sitting next to who can she sit next to at the end to win?
It's
herself,
Leanna, like we just mentioned.
Because she was like tonight, and like in Tribal, she's like, "I'm not making the big moves right now, and I'm okay with that."
Heather's only winning if she sits beside Danny and Leanna. That'd be the only two people I could see.
And they split the vote, and
even then, I don't think she wins.
Probably not. Although people like her every time they say like they really like seem to like her as a person. They don't respect her gameplay, but they like her as a person.
Well, that's the thing is they have to to give her the $1 million. They would have to really just hate the other two finalists or the one other finalist. We still don't know if this will be a final 2 or a final 3 yet. But and then you, Jeff, you have Erica and Deshaun still in play.
Yeah, it's between me and Daryl. I think, guys. Like I think it's going to be me or Daryl winning this draft here.
And where did you take Erica? Was your first pick, and you took her at 7. Wow, so
pretty good pick.
And Deshaun at 8 or 10. You took Deshaun at 10. So
I almost took Evie, so I'm glad it didn't.
Evie.
Ricard. Oh,
it's Canadian pronunciations, I guess. Well,
no,
Ricard's red.
Ricard's red. Ricard's white.
So, and as we do, let's hear just Chantel's exit.
I am so proud of myself for the way that I played this game. I feel like I played a really strong game from UA all the way to the merge. And there's no hard feelings, but I left with an idol in my pocket. That's the other thing. I left with an idol in my pocket. Oh my gosh. But this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I was surprised, honestly, that she had that good of spirits after getting blindsided like that. Like, I thought she would have been livid.
Did you like how she called Deshaun a snake on the way out too?
I'm like, what?
That kind of was her showing her cards there. Like, I think she's very aware of her image, and she was smart enough in in that moment to not show get pissed off. But yeah, when she called Deshaun a snake, that was kind of her little
Sue Hawk
stab
moment.
The Sue Hawk on the way out. She's gonna have a jury thing where she's gonna go off and be entitled, I think. But
she's gonna preach.
Yeah, she'll preach.
Yeah.
There's an organ starts playing. Yes.
The rest of the jury starts singing gospel.
But it wasn't even Deshaun's plan, it was Danny's plan.
Well, okay, can we talk? That was the one part I wanted to talk about before, is Danny here? Because Danny finds out that Rickard is with Erica and Heather. He had the opportunity in this vote to tell Shan that this was coming toward her and swing the vote, get an idol played, and keep Shan in the game and vote out Erica. He had the chance to do all of those things here.
Danny
did.
Yep.
And he didn't do it.
That's not what Deshaun wanted to do.
So you're saying Danny's not playing? Deshaun's playing for Danny?
I think largely, yes.
Yeah.
I think that Deshaun, Danny's following Deshaun's lead largely. I don't see them not being doing the same plan.
Blind leading the blind.
Potentially, I haven't seen any example where Danny and Deshaun have disagreed and Danny got his way yet. So it seems like and Deshaun always seems to have just a bit. There was I guess. Even when they were going to go after Erica at one point, and there was that whole time where Deshaun wanted to lose on purpose just so they could vote out Erica, right? And Danny wasn't super into that, but he was actually trying to do that in the challenge. It was only because Nasir, through sheer force of will, made sure Luvu would not lose that challenge that it didn't happen. But that was a time where Danny was kind of going against his instincts, and he went along with Deshaun's lead. So that's why I tend to still think that way, and that's why he could have flipped this, and he could have done a lot of different things here to save Shan or to change the dynamics, but he didn't. Although I think he will continue to voice his opinion, like we have to get out players like Rickard, we have to get out threats like that next. He's not worried about getting out Heather. I don't think he's even worried about getting out Erica that much.
Sure.
Why? Who cares?
Well, yeah, he probably will change his tune, but yeah,
he'd probably get out Xander first.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know about that. I think yes, with Rickard, he definitely want to get him out, and he seems to want to get Erica out quite a bit. Like he seems to throw her name around a lot.
But he would want to get Erica out before Xander.
He respects competitors, but
Xander's a competitor.
Yeah, he seems. I don't know. I don't really understand Danny. I don't get where he's coming at the game from. It's very confusing.
Because Shan was the one beating the drum about let's get out Erica. So now that Chantel's out of the game, and if Leanna is not working with him, Danny and Deshaun actively now, then I don't know if Erica is going to be the next target. I think the logical target next would be someone like Xander. Or Leanna, perhaps, if she's just going to, burn every bridge here and just make herself a sort of an outcast in the tribe.
I would say Xander makes the most amount of sense, with remaining votes going towards, depending on the point of view, Deshaun, Heather.
The curse must be fulfilled. We have to see Nasir, Chantel, and Xander voted out in succession here. In the next three votes, just to complete the curse that was created with broccoli being little trees, goats on astroturf, and butterflies just being your dead relatives. That is the incantation that created the curse in the beginning, right?
I don't see Xander playing as badly as Nasir and Shan. I see he's had to go through a lot more moments here where does he play his idol? Does he not? He's had to read the vote more than the other people.
Xander?
Yeah. So I do think, like Jameel's right, that idol will get played, but I don't know whether or not it'll save himself. I just think he'll play it. You know what I mean?
He's going into final 7 here. So how long? He has to think about when do I
Two
play
votes.
it?
2 votes. He only can play it at final 6. That's the last
So
time
he of course he'll try to win the immunity outright. Then he can save it for the following. But if he doesn't win the next immunity,
he's good. He's gold. He's either going to win the immunity next week and he'll play it, and then he's at final 6. He's at final 6, I think.
Final 6, and then anything can happen, right?
It can. Like once, and plus you have the other factors in play. Like when it comes down to like lower numbers, that shot in the dark can just mess up anyone. Honestly,
Right, and those are still in play, right? Ultimately, for a while. And when will those start getting played?
Yeah, well, taking Shan off the board here is like taking the queen of the chessboard, out of the game here, and now it's just like all the rooks and bishops are gonna have to go at it and see who wins.
Yeah,
and it's like it's interesting because I don't, a pawn could win this game, a heather could win the game.
That makes me think of Tashawn. Remember when he was talking about all the chess pieces a long time ago?
Was he?
Yeah. Where is that? Tashawn. I feel like
Reindeer are real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he didn't believe in reindeers.
Yes. That was funny.
I don't have it. Why don't I have it? Sorry, guys. Never mind. But he was talking about he was the bishop, and he goes diagonal.
Yeah, well, so, sometimes he goes backwards. He retreats.
Yeah, I was kind of I said to Jane tonight before I watched the episode, I was like, "Who do you think's going tonight?" And we kind of think, well, Xander's got to be someone they want to get out. But why? But she was like, I hope it's Shan, right? And I think that Shan, as much as I was, even though I had her in the draft, I was like, I kind of want to see what the game will be like now without her. Right, like you're right. Like she is a big piece. She was a connector for a lot of these players. And so without her there, I don't really know what will take place.
She was pretty nauseating tonight too, guys. Like every single player she interacted with was, "Oh, I love you, and you're my favorite person," and no. And I was just like, Shan, you're so I get it, Survivor, but be a bit more subtle with this, I don't know. That's just how I felt about her gameplay. I was like, this is tough. This is tough to watch. This is poor gameplay. It's very easy to see through from a TV show perspective. I can only imagine what it was like on the island.
Yeah. Who do you think is the most annoying person out there, or was that?
No, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I could only imagine that Shan was one of the people that would make me roll my eyes a lot.
Yeah, the frenetic energy.
Yeah,
constantly.
Very costly. Okay, well, I don't know if there's anything more to say about this episode. I think we've broken it down. Thank you for watching and listening, everybody, and for checking this out. We have other stuff. We got different things. We got so much coming up. I can't even keep up.
Hit me with it. I need it. Pump it into my game.
Okay. Well, most imminently tomorrow night on Live Long and Podcast, our Star Trek themed channel. You should be checking that out. We're going to be talking about the next episode of Star Trek Discovery, the second episode of season 4, titled Anomaly. I'll be on around 10 p.m. tomorrow night, talking about that with Adam Woodward and Michael Chan and Ashley Millard as we continue our coverage of that show. Also on Live Long and Podcast this Saturday night, we are going to be. Oh, I gotta get the full screen. Oh, control. Oh. This Saturday night, we are going to be doing our next installment of Star Trek Radio Theater. Jeff Jaemeel and I and many others are going to be bringing the Star Trek Lower Decks episode Wejduj to redoing it in sort of an audio script read, the theater of the mind, if you will, as we call it, Star Trek Radio Theater. It's a really funny episode. It's a really quick one. It will probably only take us like half an hour to do, and we're really looking forward to doing that. So check that out on Live Long and Podcast. This Saturday night, it will be around 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be starting, and if you like that kind of stuff, also our other channel is called Trivial Debates and Trivial. Let's get this going. Trivial Debates is our monthly show where we argue about movie, TV, sports, and more. We have our host Jody Simpson ready to go, along with Max Duda and Dylan Gonzalez ready to compete. However, the third contestant is still to be determined. There were many invites. There were many negotiations still going on. So that will be starting on, we'll get somebody confirmed in the next couple of days. That will be on Sunday, November 28th at around 11 a.m. And that will be a live show where we'll have a movie round, TV round, Jody Simpson creating the questions. Make sure to check all that out. Also, Monday nights we're on a bit of a hiatus because we just completed our Star Trek original series rewatch over on Live Long and Podcast. That was our Monday night podcast, or it was originally a Wednesday night podcast, then it became a Monday night podcast. So we did that with our dad, Ted, Jeff and I's dad. We watched all 79 episodes of the original series, so check that out. And then starting on Monday, December the 6th, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Enterprise, all of those episodes. That was a show that premiered in 2001, starting Scott Bakula. So it's been a long road. So if you want to hear about every episode of Star Trek Enterprise, we're going to be talking about those for many weeks until we get all 4 seasons done. Similarly, on Tuesday nights on Live Long and Podcast, talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Jeff Mader, the station commander, later captain, as we have been watching all those episodes for some time now. Into season 4 we are. And we just last night watched the episode Hard Time. We're going to be doing Shattered Mirror, I believe is the next episode we'll be covering on Deep Space Nine at 9ish. And then Wednesday nights, we are here on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting, covering Survivor. As we also did earlier this year, we talked about Big Brother, both USA and Canadian versions. And we also have talked about a lot of the Marvel shows and movies, including Eternals most recently. And we're going to be looking at Spider-Man and Hawkeye and those other things that are coming up as well in the next couple of months. So I think those are all our shows. Also, we have our good friend Davin Skellhorn, also Jeff and I's second cousin. He has his own Star Trek channel called Locutors of Trek. He does different shows over there. He does trivia. He does writers' room segments. He does intellectual deep dives into different topics. So Star Trek themed, but also very different than Live Long and Podcast. But he's going to be on Radio Theater. He's going to be on our Tuesday night Deep Space Nine. So we collaborate with him all the time. Anyway,
Dave, don't forget about our third cousin, Tracy Fleury, who is competing for the Canadian National Olympic team for curling right now.
She's also our second cousin, Jeff.
Oh, I thought it was third.
No, she's second.
All right, second. Also our second cousin.
She's also... But she's from dad's side.
Right. It's the other side.
Right. So dad's side has curling athletes going to win all the money. The mom's side has Star Trek podcasters. That's how we roll.
Right.
All right. Well, I think those are all the shows and episodes to plug. We've been on here for about an hour. Baby with a Machine Gun, and I gotta play it again just because when will I ever get to play it again?
And it's almost like giving like a baby a machine gun.
That's right. Thanks to all the viewers and listeners out there. Make sure to subscribe, like, and we will see you next time. And until then, let's just go out here with Shan's. Maybe it's a little too soon, but we have to talk about Shan.
I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But
No, it's okay. Okay. Good night.